The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and despair. Anya Hayes pressed her palm against the cold glass, watching her mother sleep, connected to machines that beeped with every shallow breath. The doctors had been clear: without the experimental surgery, her mother had weeks, not months. The cost was astronomical. Anya had sold everything, borrowed from everyone, and still came up short. That's when the man in the expensive suit found her in the hospital cafeteria, nursing a cold cup of coffee. "Miss Hayes," he'd said, sliding a business card across the table. "My employer has a proposition for you." Now, 3 days later, Anya sat in the sprawling penthouse of Julian Sterling, the tech billionaire whose name she'd seen splashed across headlines for months. The man who'd been in a devastating accident that had left him paralyzed. The man who, according to rumors, had become a recluse, bitter and unreachable. He sat in a state-of-the-art wheelchair, his face carved from marble, his eyes holding nothing but cold calculation. He didn't offer a greeting. "Your mother's surgery," he said, his voice flat and clinical. "I'll pay for it. In full. Plus a generous monthly stipend for your time." Anya's heart hammered. "And what would I have to do?" Julian's lip curled. "Be my wife. For 1 year. You'll live here, you'll attend events with me, you'll help me secure a merger that requires me to present a stable family image. Nothing more. You're a pawn, Miss Hayes. A temporary solution. Don't mistake this for anything else." She should have walked out. Pride screamed at her to refuse. But then she pictured her mother's pale face, the way her hand had felt so fragile in Anya's grip. "I'll do it," she whispered. Julian nodded, already looking past her. "My assistant will have the contract ready. You'll move in tomorrow. Don't make this complicated, and I won't make your life difficult." He turned his chair, dismissing her as if she were already invisible. Anya walked out of that penthouse feeling like she'd signed away a piece of her soul. But desperate times demanded desperate measures, and love for her mother outweighed any pride she had left. The Sterling mansion was less a home and more a museum. Every surface gleamed, every corner held art that cost more than Anya's childhood home. The staff moved like ghosts, barely acknowledging her presence. Julian had already retreated to his private wing, leaving her to wander the cavernous halls alone. On her 3rd day, Anya discovered a hidden garden, overgrown, forgotten, its fountain dry and cracked. Without thinking, she began pulling weeds, finding solace in the simple act of restoring something broken. "You shouldn't be here." The small voice startled her. Anya turned to find a tiny girl clutching a worn teddy bear, her eyes wide and watchful. Bella Sterling. Julian's daughter. The child Anya had read about in gossip columns but never seen in person. "I'm Anya," she said gently. "I live here now. What's your name?" The girl didn't speak, but she took a hesitant step closer, watching Anya work. When a butterfly landed on a nearby flower, Bella's face transformed with wonder, a smile flickering at the corners of her mouth. Anya's heart clenched. This child was hurting, surrounded by coldness and silence. Just like her father, she was trapped in her own world. That evening, Anya found painting supplies in a storage closet and left them outside Bella's door. The next morning, they were gone, and a small, clumsy painting of a butterfly was tucked under Anya's pillow. Julian noticed the paint on Bella's fingers during their tense dinner. His eyes narrowed. "What happened?" Bella shrank back, fear flashing across her face. Anya stepped in. "We painted together. It was just for fun." Julian's jaw tightened. "You're here to play a role, Miss Hayes, not to intrude." "Bella doesn't need," he stopped, something flickering in his gaze. Confusion, perhaps. Curiosity. For a moment, his mask slipped, and Anya glimpsed the man beneath, exhausted, grieving, desperate to protect what little he had left. Then the walls slammed back up. He dismissed her with a wave, wheeling himself away without another word. But Anya didn't miss the way he looked back at the painting Bella had clutched protectively to her chest. He looked at it with longing. Like he wished he could paint with her too. Anya had been in the Sterling mansion for 2 weeks when she discovered the truth about Julian's physical therapy. She'd stumbled upon the private gym by accident, intending to find her way to the library. Through the glass door, she watched him struggle. A therapist guided his limbs through movements that seemed torturous, his face contorted with frustration and pain. After 30 minutes, the therapist packed up, leaving Julian alone in the middle of the room, his head bowed. Anya should have walked away. But something made her push open the door. "You're leaving him too early," she said. "His muscles are still warm. You should do another set of stretches." The therapist blinked, startled. "The routine is set by his doctors, miss. I don't care." Anya crossed to Julian, who stared at her with barely concealed fury. "What's the point of having all this equipment if you're not going to use it properly? What are you doing?" Julian's voice was ice. "This isn't your concern. Everything in this house is my concern now." She knelt before him, meeting his glare. "I signed a contract, remember? A stable family image requires a stable father who can at least pretend to be getting better." The lies tasted bitter on her tongue. The truth was simpler, she couldn't bear to see anyone give up, not when she'd spent her whole life fighting. For a long moment, Julian said nothing. Then his jaw unclenched. "Fine. Show me what you're suggesting." Anya worked with him through the exercises, pushing him harder than the therapist ever had. By the end, sweat beaded on his brow, but something else had shifted in his expression. Respect, perhaps. Or merely surprise that anyone would bother. That night, over the silent dinner, Julian asked, "Why do you care?" Anya met his gaze. "Because you've given up, Mr. Sterling. And I've seen what giving up does to people." He didn't reply. But later, when she passed his room, she heard the sound of him moving through his stretches alone. Bella's silence didn't break overnight. It came in layers, each one a small victory. She began sitting beside Anya during meals. Then she started following her through the house like a little shadow. And finally, on a rainy afternoon, Bella brought her painting supplies to Anya's room and set them on the floor. "Show me," she whispered. Her first words in weeks. Anya's eyes filled with tears. "Of course, sweetheart." They painted together for hours, the rain drumming against the windows. Bella's artwork was a chaotic explosion of color, yellow suns, blue rivers, purple flowers. Freedom on paper. Julian appeared in the doorway, watching silently. Anya felt his gaze on them, heavy and searching. She didn't look up. "I used to paint," he said finally, his voice rough. Before everything." Anya looked up then. He was staring at Bella, something like grief clouding his features. The magnificent Julian Sterling, reduced to watching his daughter from a doorway, unable to join her. "We have extra brushes," Anya said softly. Julian shook his head. "I can't." "Yes, you can." She set a brush on the floor near his chair. "Bella, show your father what you've been making." Bella held up her painting of a family, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. Julian's breath caught. His daughter had drawn him standing, whole, perfect. Slowly, with Anya's quiet encouragement, Julian reached down and took the brush. His movements were uncertain, his hands trembling. But he painted. He painted a small flower beside Bella's son, and his daughter clapped her hands together. For the first time in what felt like forever, Julian laughed. It was a rusty, broken sound, but it was real. And Anya realized, with a sinking heart, that she was falling for a man who could never truly want her back. The evening air was cool on Anya's skin as she helped Julian navigate the garden pathway. Bella ran ahead, chasing fireflies, her laughter echoing off the stone walls. "The garden looks different," Julian observed. I haven't been out here in years. An old gardener used to love it, Anya said. I've been restoring it. You planted flowers. It wasn't a question. For a contract wife, you put in a lot of effort. Anya shrugged. Everything deserves a chance to bloom again. Julian was quiet for a long moment. Including me? She stopped pushing his chair, coming around to face him. His eyes held hers, vulnerable and searching. The mask was gone. Anya, I need to tell you something. His voice cracked. The accident wasn't really an accident. It was deliberate. My business partner wanted me out of the way. He's still out there, and if he found out about you. I don't care. The words came out fierce. I'm not afraid of him. You should be. Julian grabbed her wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. Everyone I care about gets hurt. My wife. My daughter. And now you. Julian. He pulled her closer, his face inches from hers. His breath was warm against her skin. You think I can't want you like this? His whisper was desperate, pained. You think I don't see you? Every day, you've made me want things I thought were dead. You've made me want to live. Anya's heart shattered. He wasn't talking about physical intimacy, he was talking about hope. About connection. About the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone see the broken man beneath the fortune. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around him, holding him close. His body shook against hers. I'm not afraid of you, she whispered. I'm not afraid of your brokenness. I've been broken too. The charity gala was Julian's first public appearance since the accident. Every journalist in the city was there, cameras flashing as Anya stepped beside him in a stunning sapphire gown. Hold Bella's hand, Julian murmured. Keep smiling. Remember, you're my devoted wife. But the moment they stepped inside, something shifted. The whispers started immediately, about the mysterious Mrs. Sterling, about the paralyzed billionaire, about the rumors of their rocky marriage. And then Anya saw him. Marcus Webb. Julian's business partner. The man who tried to destroy him. Marcus approached with a vulture's smile. Julian, my old friend. What a surprise to see you here. His gaze slid to Anya. And with such lovely company. Julian's hand tightened on his chair's armrest. Marcus. Still attending events you weren't invited to, I see. Marcus laughed, but his eyes were cold. Just checking in on my investment. You look comfortable. Almost happy. That doesn't suit you, Julian. Anya stepped forward. If you'll excuse us, Mr. Webb, my husband and I have other guests to greet. She placed her hand on Julian's shoulder, and he covered it with his own. The gesture was meant for Marcus, a united front. But when Julian looked up at her, his eyes held something real. Thank you, he whispered as Marcus stalked away. For defending me. Always, she answered. On the ride home, Bella fell asleep against Anya's shoulder. Julian reached over and took Anya's hand, weaving his fingers through hers. I never thought I'd have this again, he admitted. A family. A reason to fight. Anya squeezed his hand. You've always had a reason. You just forgot. He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. Outside, the city lights blurred past, but inside the car, a new understanding had been forged. They weren't just playing roles anymore. They were real. And real meant they had everything to lose. Marcus Webb didn't wait long to strike. The headlines appeared the next morning, Billionaire's fake wife exposed. The articles detailed everything, the contract, the payment for Anya's mother's surgery, the cold arrangement. They painted Anya as a gold digger and Julian as a desperate fraud. Board members called emergency meetings. The company's stock plummeted. And Julian, trapped by his own protective instincts, did the one thing he thought would save Anya. He publicly denied the rumors. Then he announced that the marriage had been a business arrangement all along and that Anya would be leaving the estate immediately. "You're letting them win," Anya said, her voice trembling. "You're pushing me away. I'm protecting you." Julian couldn't meet her eyes. "The contract is void. You're free to go." "I don't want to be free." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I want to be here. With you. With Bella. Don't you understand that I love?" "Stop." He wheeled away from her, his back rigid. "Don't say something you'll regret. This was never meant to be real." Anya stood frozen in the middle of his study, watching the man she loved destroy everything they'd built. Her heart was a gaping wound. "Fine," she whispered. "If that's what you want, I'll go." She walked out without looking back. The days without Anya were unbearable. Bella refused to speak again. She didn't eat, didn't paint, didn't play. She just sat in her room, clutching the butterfly painting Anya had given her, her eyes hollow and empty. Julian watched his daughter fade away and felt himself fading alongside her. Every corner of the mansion held reminders of Anya, the garden she'd restored, the paintings on the walls, the scent of lavender she'd planted by the fountain. The dark thoughts crept in. What was the point of fighting? What was the point of living? Anya had been the only light in his darkness, and he'd extinguished her himself out of fear. "You're a fool," Owen said one morning, startling Julian from his thoughts. "That woman loved you. She didn't care about the money or the fame. She cared about you." "She deserves better than me," Julian said. "She deserves someone who'll fight for her. Not someone who'll give up at the first sign of trouble." Owen set a newspaper on Julian's lap. "Now, are you going to let her go? Or are you going to get her back?" Julian stared at the newspaper. There was a small announcement: Anya's mother's surgery had been successful, and Anya was taking her home to their small apartment. She was starting over. Without him. No. He wouldn't let that happen. "She's leaving," Julian whispered. "She's leaving, and I've done nothing." "Then do something," Owen said. "Or lose her forever." Julian looked at Bella's door, at the painting tucked beneath it. A picture of 3 stick figures holding hands. He made his decision. Anya was packing her mother's things when the knock came. She opened the door to find Owen standing there, his expression unreadable. "He's here," Owen said. "He needs to see you." "No." Anya started to close the door. "I can't. Not after everything. Please, Anya." It was Julian's voice. From behind Owen, he wheeled forward, his face haggard and exhausted. "Just give me 5 minutes." Her heart clenched at the sight of him. He'd lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He looked broken in a way that had nothing to do with his paralysis. "I don't know what you want from me," Anya said. "You made it clear I was just a contract." "That was a lie." Julian pushed into the apartment, his voice cracking. "It was all a lie. I was terrified, Anya. Terrified of Marcus, terrified of losing you, terrified that I wasn't worthy of." He stopped, his eyes glistening. "I'm not asking you to come back because of a contract. I'm asking you to come back because I love you." Anya's breath caught. "Julian. I know I'm broken. I know I'm not the man you deserve. But I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you, if you'll let me. Bella misses you. I miss you. I don't want to be whole without you." He reached up, his hand trembling, and Anya took it. "You really think I can't love you like this?" she whispered, echoing his words from that night in the garden. "You think I care about your brokenness?" And then she fell into his arms, holding him as tightly as she could. They were married again, in the garden Anya had restored. Bella served as flower girl, scattering petals everywhere. Owen officiated, his gruff voice softening as he pronounced them husband and wife. Julian held Anya's hand as the small gathering applauded. His mother had flown in, and Anya's mother sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face. "I'm still afraid," Julian admitted during their first dance, his chair positioned so he could hold her close. "Marcus is still out there, and I can't promise you'll always be safe." "I don't want promises of safety." Anya brushed her fingers through his hair. "I want promises of you." He pulled her closer, burying his face against her shoulder. "I didn't think anyone could ever want me like this. In pieces. Struggling. Needing help just to get through the day. And I didn't think I'd ever find someone who made me feel like I was enough." She kissed his forehead. "We're both broken, Julian. But together, we can be whole. I love you, Anya Sterling." He pulled back, his eyes fierce with devotion. "Forever." "I love you too," she whispered. "Forever." Bella ran over, throwing her arms around both of them. Julian laughed, the sound free and happy, and Anya felt something she'd never thought she'd feel again. Peace. Love. Home. The journey hadn't been easy. It had been filled with heartbreak and fear and moments of terrible doubt. But as Julian squeezed her hand, as Bella's laughter filled the air, Anya knew that every sacrifice had been worth it. Because the man who'd whispered, "You think I can't want you like this," had learned to want himself again. And that, Anya thought, was the greatest miracle of all.